Hello, everyone, and welcome to Documentation Not Included, a tech industry podcast presented by DNI Stream, the live knowledge repository for software professionals. It's Thursday at 7 o'clock British time, and we are live on twitch.tv/DNI Stream. I'm Chris, and unfortunately, Josie cannot be with us today. She has come down with something. Hopefully, it's not the unmentionable, which I'm sure we'll mention plenty of times today because that's part of the show. I am, however, joined by Cameron. Cameron has been a guest before. He came on for our Agents, the Good, the Bad and the Ugly episode a few months back. But for listeners who haven't, can't remember you or didn't listen to that particular episode, please do introduce yourself, Cameron.
Hello all. Yeah, so returning, I'm Cameron McGrain. I'm Associate Director at Harvey Nash. So yeah, I've been here before, returning guest. But yeah, can't wait to jump into the hot topic, work from home. Sad just that Josie is not with us today. She did put me in the hot seat and grill me a lot last time. I was actually looking forward to it again, but I'm sure, Chris, you will be able to fill her shoes.
I'll try. It's not quite the same context or the same. There's not as much onus on you today. It's more of a
I'm not
general.
as hated.
Yeah. Okay, so as always, is hello to everybody in Twitch chat as well. We are live, so please do get involved, ask any questions or mention any comments during the show, and we will try and include them as appropriate. But before we get going, as always, when Josie is not here, she will have my guts for garters if I do not do the icebreaker question. I forgot about it up until the last minute, so it's a very simple one today. So Cameron, icebreaker question. Which one song could you listen to over and over without it annoying you?
Oh, do you know what? I'm going to have to say Will Smith, Miami. That's just a classic.
Okay.
You can't not hear that song and then just sort of like move your head to it as well. I mean, it just takes you back. It's timeless.
Yeah, I suppose it wouldn't be on my list, but I mean, to be fair, I'm a big fan of his. The first hit. Boom, Shake the Room, whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of fond memories of dancing around in clubs to it when I was a kid. But yeah, and mine is a bit different. I'm into my rock and my metal. There's lots and lots of metal and rock songs I can listen to over and over, but there's one in particular which is suppose more of a pop song. Depends how you look at it. And it's David Bowie, Space Oddity. That song. Obviously. Every time I listen to it, it sends chills down my spine. It's just one of them songs that I really like. I just really love listening to. So that's mine. Okay, icebreaker done. Josie will be happy. So on to our topic, staying sane when working from home. Now today we wanted to focus a little bit more on not necessarily how to work from home, because we've done a show on that before. But today we wanted to focus more on what's currently happening in the IT world. Not just the IT world, but across the entire world, and it's hitting England quite heavily at the moment. We are under a kind of enforced working at home situation. A lot of people, for the first time, probably maybe in their careers or for a first time, they are going to be working at home in isolation on their own, for an undetermined amount of time. And we wanted to talk today a little bit about how that feels, I suppose, and what to look out for, and kind of how, give a little bit of advice of how to do it. Now, Josie and I, we are both remote workers. We both run our own businesses. We have, we have our own offices and our own workspaces, and we talked about how to set yourself up in the past. But I suppose let's start with a question then, Cameron. You're currently in this situation. You have been told by your employer to work from home, and so is your team, yeah. I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is your number one worry, I suppose, at the moment? Because you work at home occasionally, but you don't do it regularly. You don't do it as standard. So what's your number one worry for this?
Well, I think for me, it's my team, the people around me. So the team that I manage is the headspace that they stay in right now. This isn't work from home. This is forced work from home, what we're chatting about just in the prep. And that's one thing. I think one day in isolation, working from home can be great. Day 2, day 3, fine. It's week 2 and week 3. So I think it's just making sure that people actually don't lose the routine that they would normally have, and that they still actually are being healthy. It sounds daft, but it's like making sure they actually set aside time to. Like I have a call with them every morning. It's like, get out, go for a walk before you start work. Actually have a routine, like take time off at lunchtime, dedicate time to actually yourself throughout the day. I think overworking, remote working is a is a thing that happens. People sort of think, oh God, I bet my employer doesn't think I'm working as hard, so they actually overdo what they should, and it's making sure people are still being sensible, really.
Yeah, and so it's more about, I suppose, their health, their mental health. They're kind of making sure that they're comfortable with it, and they're reassured that you don't think that way, that you don't think that they're not pulling the weight necessarily. So
Yeah,
there is a go on.
no, I was going to say, like, they know that I trust them, and it's productivity. This is a secondary thing, and behind that, I know they're going to get on and do what they need to do. But the primary thing, and it's not to do the right thing or to sort of say to do the right thing. It's just making sure that they're right. Everything else will sort of follow after it. But yeah, the mental health aspect is number one.
So I mean, at the moment, then, are you struggling with anything in particular when it comes to, apart from the worrying about the second and third week? Are you struggling with anything in particular with the immediate? Because I'm presuming you've only been doing it for a few days at the moment, because it seems to be the last few weeks that people have been going into this forced remote working.
Yeah, so we've had some people working from home since last Friday, for various circumstances. This is my second day working from home. I was trying to remain in the office with the sort of the numbers that we did have. It was forced isolation anyway. I think the main things for me that I worry about is just actually what the impact is longer term for that, and making sure that they're reassured as well. Right now, being in the service industry that we are, it's actually you're going away and speaking to the candidates, to the clients, and just actually your information gathering right now, and that in itself can incite a little bit of panic in itself, because you speak to one company and they say, no, we're not doing any recruitment at all just now, we're putting everything on hold, and all of a sudden you're thinking, oh God, how does this impact me and so people around us, which is a natural thing to do. So I think there's the remote working side of it, but then there's what's actually going on in the world as well. People have got more than enough stress happening just now, so it's about not adding to that.
Yeah, the wider economy, we don't really know what's coming, and I mean, I'm worried. I don't really know where my next client is going to come from at the moment, for a number of reasons, not just because of the remote working thing. If anything, for me, the remote working aspect, or the forced remote working aspect, could potentially be a good thing, because a lot of the time I have to have conversations with clients about them not allowing people like myself to work remotely. And now, hopefully, they'll see that it can work. Or they might have the opposite experience and it may not work at all, and they will absolutely definitely have a no remote working policy. So, I'm up in the air myself. I don't really know what's going to happen. And hopefully, we'll be able to gauge that. Sorry?
It's a bit sink or swim just now. I think everyone's thinking, I need to make this work, because if we can prove that we can do it just now, then when things go back to normal, the company might have a slightly relaxed policy when it comes to work from home. So I think a lot of people are thinking, oh, I don't want to mess up just now, because the opportunity is there longer term.
So you also don't want to over-deliver, as you said. Now, people will naturally over-deliver. That is a common issue when it comes to remote working. People feel like they're not seen. They feel like because you're working at home and nobody's controlling or looking over you or staring over your shoulder at your screen, or even just seeing that you're in the office, doing your job, they sometimes feel like is it imposter syndrome? Is it there's a phrase, there's a word for it, where you don't feel adequate enough, and I think people can definitely over deliver. I've got over that, well and truly got over that. These days I probably deliver more than I would in an office, but not overly. I probably deliver roughly the same amount of value, but I have a much more controlled, relaxed, and I can manage my life a lot better, because I don't have that additional commute time. And I don't know how long your commute is into the office, Cameron, but mine usually is an hour and a half if I ever go into a client's office, which is 3 hours a day at the minimum of wasted time, or 6-8 hours a week if I'm commuting once or twice a week, and it all adds up, and all of that time can be spent elsewhere. If you run a business, it can be spent earning money or trying to win new clients, or it can be as an employee, it can just be spent, right, I'm finished for the day, let's have tea and then do some chill out time, have a relaxation, because all that is very, very important, and being able to separate work from your actual social time is extremely important, even when you're working remotely. But in isolation, how do we deal with that? How do we add that social time into it? Is that a worry? Have you
Yeah,
thought
I think
about that?
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think that I've actually got on my chalkboard in the kitchen. I've got a notepad, notes, and I've got work from home rules that I've put
Right.
in just for the day. It's got really simple things. It's 'cause I think you lose a sense of sort of time and reality. So some of them are just sort of really pedestrian things like drink 2 liters of water a day, try and get out and do 10,000 steps a day, like get 8 hours sleep at night. I think the thing when you work from home is I'm not having to get up the next morning. So actually 10 o'clock becomes 11 o'clock, becomes whenever people lose a routine. So I think it's important to try and maintain some of that routine that you would have externally anyway. And absolutely, I think the people go into it with the best of intentions, and then within a couple of days fall just
Mm.
into the trap they just didn't want to be. I saw this fantastic meme sent around the other day that was day one working from home, and it was Thor, like proper Thor, and then it was day five working from home, and it was Thor and Ragnarok after he'd like put all the weight on, had the massive beard, and was just looking at it. I was like, that's very true. Obviously, a bit of extreme. It was like, let's not be day five Thor. Let's be day one Thor for as long as we can.
I suppose I can't. I have seen a few of the memes going around that about that. Obviously, remote working is a massive thing at the moment. It's all over social media, all over LinkedIn. I have. I can't relate to them because I've got such a routine now. Because I have been. I must be. It's well over 10 years that I've been almost exclusively working at home. I feel out of place when I have to work in an office. I feel really quite awkward and constrained, and like when I'm working in an office, I feel like my entire life is work because I'm doing all of that commute, and because when I've finished the commute and I get home, I'm still thinking about work. I haven't wound down. There's something about when I hit a certain time. I mean, I keep a timesheet. I keep a timesheet because I don't necessarily work like 4 hours and then another 4 hours in the morning and then another 4.5, 5 hours in the afternoon or whatever. I split it up depending on what tasks I've got on and what other things are going on in my life. But I keep logs of exactly how much time I spent in everything. So I know that by the end of the day, I might start at 6 in the morning, I might do an hour, and then I might do some exercise downstairs, and then I might go for a walk at lunchtime, or I might have another task, some house thing I need to do. My wife might need me to do something or whatever. And then at 5 o'clock, I might go downstairs and eat me dinner. And then I'll come back upstairs and do a little bit more work. But I won't be working until death. I'll be working until I've hit that 7.5, 8 hour mark. And I've built a fairly good routine out of that. And I can be very productive doing that. Some people need solid blocks of time. And absolutely, if you do need that, and sometimes I get really into the zone, and I'm spending 4 or 5 hours doing one thing, one task. But in that instance, that's when what you mentioned about forgetting to drink, forgetting to blink, forgetting to forgetting to do the normal things. Sometimes I'll find myself sitting here and I need a wee for hours and hours, and I'm not actually, I'm just haven't got up because I'm so engrossed in it, and there's nothing to distract me. Whereas if I was in an office, somebody would say something to me, and I'd be like, after I've finished the conversation, I might go to the toilet and then come back. But something about being at home that it's there, it's right. It's I could, if there wasn't a wall here, I could probably touch my toilet. It's right close to me, but I just don't get up and do anything about it. So yeah, I can see that. I can see that as being a worry because it's a very different mindset and a very different frame of mind, I suppose.
Yeah, but you're 10 years into it. I think people earlier on, they sort of view it as almost they're given enough rope to hang themselves in a way. And it's like,
Mm.
no, that's not it. I'm very productive when I work from home. Sometimes, as you say, like too productive. Like yesterday, that was an extenuating circumstance with the HMRC announcement, but I was logged on about 8:30 in the morning, didn't log off till about 9:30 at night. Took about 15 minutes to cook and eat my lunch, and then was back on again.
Yep.
And I don't do that every day. I'm not going to be saying I work a 60-hour week every week, but that was me being in the zone, as you say, to sort of get through that. But this is a forced work from home. I think it's a different sort of set of circumstances here when it's a one-off, when it's sort of isolated. then it can be very, very productive. And I think anyone could be productive. It's like you don't have people coming up and saying, "Oh, Cam, you got 2 minutes to have a meeting, catch up." You can just, as you say, get into the zone, get things done. It's when you sort of lose that sense of team camaraderie, team spirit. Now, everyone will be slightly different. A lot of devs that I know will literally put their headphones in and then they'll write code for 3-4 hours, and very little breaks in between. I don't work in that industry.
Yeah.
It's a lot more collaborative. So it's the collaboration and the connectivity that you lose if you do it for an extended period of time.
So I know a lot of devs that are in that situation as well, where they do not like working at home. They want to be with people, even though they are quite often sat there with their headphones in for 3-4 hours. But they like to be able to say to somebody, "Have you seen this problem before?" Or did you see the game last night? Or just something to break the day up. Whereas I don't really miss that. I've got multiple chat programs. I've got my my Slack program for communicating with my clients. I've got Discord, which I use for. I've got a community for DNI streaming there. Plus, we also have other various gaming communities and things like that. So that's my distraction, I suppose. It doesn't take any of my time up really, but it's there if I need to break from. Right, I've been writing this function for 45 minutes and I've still not done it. And I need to take my mind away from it, because believe me, it works. Just going to make a brew and coming back upstairs, you solve a problem, and I'm sure you have the same. Everyone has that when you break away from something. And you need to remember to do that. And I suppose the routine is a big thing. I very much might have this spreadsheet that I use to log my time. But if I don't get up at 5 or 6 o'clock or whenever I get up, get a shower, get dressed, and that's a very important thing for working at home. Get dressed like you're going into an office. I mean, fair enough, I'm not in a shirt and tie, but I get clothes on, and then start work by at least before 9 o'clock. That's how I see it. If I start work before 9 o'clock, then I'm good. I'm generally good for the day. If I start after 9 o'clock, then I'm probably not going to be as focused as I should be, and that doesn't happen these days. It might have done when in the early days. And then I have lunch at 12 pretty much every day. Sometimes half 12, 11, 1 o'clock if I'm really stuck into something or I've got a meeting. And then I'll do the afternoon. And as I said, sometimes I'll break that up. But generally, because I start quite early most of the time, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, I've got plenty of time to be distracted and still be productive, And you've got to, everyone's got different home environments as well. Mine's very quiet. I've got a cat that scratches at my door. That's the loudest I have in my house. So I'm quite lucky, really. But I know people like yourself have a lot of other distractions.
Yeah, and that's it. So I think I'm a big fan of getting up. So this is day 2. So both days I've got up. I've gone for a walk for 20 minutes in the morning. Fortunately, Scotland actually has been kind to me and it's been sunny. And yeah, I've had a shower. I've done my normal routine. But yeah, I'm not going to put on like work clothes, but something that is just a change of clothes. So you actually feel psychologically this is it, and then just plug in for acceptable periods of time. But that's gone out the window early on, just because of the sort of the reaction to what's been going on in the market, but also just in the wider economy as well. But yeah, I think that's it. I'm less seasoned from you and working from home, but I know when enough is enough. I don't have imposter syndrome because I know what I've done. For me, it's kind of do a little bit extra right now to try and help other people in that sort of sense. But I think people need to have that routine. They need to have that sort of sense of, right, because if you work from home and then you log off and then you're still in the same room that you've been working in, and you get up the next day and you do that and you do that. If you don't have a purpose behind that, you don't have sort of knowing what good looks like, then that's it. It's like, I'm just going to keep going until someone stops me. But if you're by yourself, no one's going to stop you. You need to know what good looks like, and be able to say, hey, that's enough.
I'm very much when I hit that time for the day and I've done my work, everything gets closed down on my PC. Even if I stay in the same room, which I don't, because I have a break, I go and speak to my wife and spend some time with her and cuddle a guinea pig or something, I don't know. And then I might come back upstairs a few hours later to maybe play a game with some of my friends, or do a podcast, or maybe even sometimes I'll get my laptop out downstairs, and this is the life of a geek, but I'll start programming, but I'll program something different, and it will be something that, I like the documentation not included website, for example. I've been doing a lot of work on that recently. But I also do other things, like during the day, on Wednesday afternoons, I do a stream. I do a development stream, and that is dedicated time that I know it feels like the same thing because I'm still programming, but it's still breaking it up. It's still I'm still setting time aside for myself, and that's what I enjoy. Not everybody would enjoy doing that, and I even know programmers that absolutely hate being on the computer when they're not working. They want to be out. I mean, I go out riding my bike, which by the sounds of it, it's going to get banned as well, but that's coming in. I think they're going to ban pedal cycling in leisure time. But yeah, it's breaking it up, but staying disciplined as well. So you coming from are you consider yourself a team lead, or are you not a business owner? Are you? You're a team lead type.
No.
Position.
I manage a team, but I also work and recruit myself. So I've got two things. I've got sort of my personal hat on in terms of like speaking. So I recruit contractors and have done for about 10 years. So I manage the permanent business in Edinburgh. So I've got very much a foot in both camps with that. So I think for me, what I do is I have personal goals for the day. Like I want to achieve this today. And that way it's very easy for me to hit 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whenever that is, and be like, right, I can log off now and I know I've had a good day. For the team, for the wider piece, then it's actually you can influence that, but you can't do the job for them. And it's actually just about making sure that they're in the headspace where they're effective to do their job, but also to let them know that, hey, right now, your well-being is actually more important. And you know what? You're going to have good days and bad days. And if you hit some of the stuff you wanted to do some days and you don't the other, look, it's not the end of the world. There's bigger issues with things going on. So some of the stuff I can directly impact, others I can't, and you sort of need to be happy with that.
Yeah, and you can't control people at the end of the day. People are sentient. People have their own minds and their own ways of doing things. And some people are going to overwork. And there also are, and let's be honest, there are going to be some people that underwork as well. And there may be very many different reasons for that. It could be that they don't know how to be disciplined at home. They have a home life that is disruptive or can be disruptive. I'm very lucky in that my home life's very quiet. My wife works at home as well, but she knows very much that if that door's closed, and especially if she can hear me talking to somebody, I'm in a meeting, she doesn't disturb me. But she'll come and bring me a brew, and she'll come and give me a kiss, and if there's something urgent that happens, she'll alert me. But generally, we're not the kind of people that are on the phone to each other all the time either. But we're always in contact. It's odd, but it works. But she knows that when I'm working, and it's important to have my own space as well. And some people don't have that space either. So
yeah,
I mean, I know people who again work in their front room because they don't have an office, or they don't have a bedroom that they can work in, or a quiet place. There was one company that Josie is the ambassador for one of their products called Gitkraken. You may very well have heard of them. They have recently, because of this coronavirus thing, they have given every employee $1,000, or an American company, $1,000 to set themselves up at home, which I think is admirable. I mean, that isn't doable for a lot of companies. It would be a big expense, but it's admirable that they've done that, and that they're empowering in that instance their employees to get better and have no real excuses to be uncomfortable at home. Well, I say that money doesn't solve everything, does it?
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, that's this, and there's been exceptional circumstances, and it's been really good to see people the way they have reacted to it. Organisations that potentially have always been a bit draconian in their approach to recruitment and onboarding as well. And we've got people who are due to start roles who are relocating from other areas right now, outside of the UK as well as inside, and they've been mailed laptops and told that they can just start remotely as well. And that's great. And that shows a commitment from them to sort of try and embrace the world that we're in right now. And the sort of phrase I've been using to a lot of people is, we need to, in sort of the digital world right now, we still have quite an analog approach to the process of bringing people on board them or remote or home working. But that only solves half the problem. I was chatting before the show started. I've got a 19-month-old son, so he's at that age where he needs a lot of attention, but he's not old enough where he actually knows what's going on right now. And he's running around. My mum was here today. He's trying to sort of help out, as she does on a Thursday. I was fortunate that she was able to take him away for several hours, and when his nap time comes, that's fantastic, because that's peace that I can just literally plug in for 2 hours. But a lot of people don't have that. I know people who are working at home right now who are in the process about to move house. They've got a few kids at home and of varying ages, and they've just got to make do with what the best is. Not that they're home taking a piss. It's that their circumstances don't allow them to have the same work, not even ethics, but just their work capacity, hours to work in the day that they can focus, that you can, and then I can sometimes.
So it's interesting that, like, Josie and I have always had the opinion. I'm an evangelist when it comes to working from home. Josie is a pragmatic kind of. She obviously has no problem with her employees working at home or working at home herself, but she understands. She's got more of an empathetic approach to it. She understands that not everybody wants to do it, can do it, has the capacity to be disciplined in that way. Or has the right home environment for it. And, you know, I'm coming around to that. I do understand that as well. I would never force anybody to work remotely, personally. If I had I do have employees, but if I had a lot of employees and I had a big business, then you would need an office. You can't not really do everything remotely. There are some companies that are only remote. Tech companies, you know, startups, occasionally you say, we are fully remote and we do all this, but they must have to say no to certain people who can't work remotely or don't perform when they're given that opportunity.
And some people actually are quite forthcoming with that. I mean, there's companies up here who, RBS being one of them, will often say to people, you need to work from home 2 days a week because there's not enough desk space for them. And there are people who go, I don't want to do that because I don't trust myself to work from home. It's not trusting, it's just I'm not as productive as I would be in an office as well. And that's that. I mean, that's great of them to be that enlightened about their own output as well. So I mean, it works both ways. I think it's not for everyone.
Now we've got Tultepe said something in chat. So he says, I work from my gaming/hobby room. That in itself feels like a distraction for me. My private projects are all around the room. My PC is set up for free time, and I have been converted to work. It's taken some time to get the daily routine into something that feels comfortable. So, I mean, see, that's a typical, you know, person who works in an office all the time or works. Tultepe actually works on ships occasionally. He's out at sea, but he does programming for them. So he's not an exception there. There's a lot of people that are in that situation. So I suppose when somebody is, I don't know the answer to this, and I'm hoping you might have some insight here. I'm not going to put you on the spot if you don't, but let's see how far we get. So what advice would we give to somebody then that is forced to work from home and doesn't feel like they can work from home for any reason, you know, because there's so many reasons not to do it.
Yeah.
How can they cope with it better?
I think it's trying to minimize the distractions. So that sounds like the distractions there are just like either work or is I don't know, PS4 or other sort of computer that's going on there. It's very difficult unless you've got another workstation that you can go to, or a place where you can't do it just now because it's probably going to be a lockdown. But unless there's a place that you can go to that you're not going to have these distractions, that's it. It's self-discipline at a certain point, though, and that's where I would come back to just having either sort of like some daily goals that you want to achieve. Look, so this is a sort of a non-negotiable here. So for me, when I do things, I look at things in like 1, 2s, and 3s. Like 1's absolutely have to get done. 2, I really like to get done. 3, that can bump to get to tomorrow's to-do list if things become a bit too manic. And I think it's just something as pedestrian as that, as just I need to achieve this today. And if that's not enough, I would maybe go a step further and actually sort of block out time. So like how many hours is it going to take me to get through certain tasks, and then just almost have a bit of a day planner. But I think once you actually set the routine, it takes about 30 days to create a habit. We're probably going to be working for about 30 days. So there's you sort of need to. I'm actually reading a book just now called The Power of Habit, and there is all of this event around the cue, the reward, and like why people follow certain things. And you just sort of need to create a new habit around that. It's a lot easier said than done. I appreciate me sort of just telling you, hey, just create a day plan and do this is probably not massive.
The thing is,
but you need to start with something.
I think everybody will have some that will work for some people. It's not something personally that I've ever needed to do. I just have a list of things that I either need to do in my head, or I just have a note in my code from yesterday if I was in the middle of something. Sometimes I stop coding abruptly. I don't get to a natural end. Sometimes I just stop coding, put a comment, and then go and finish for the day. But not normally. I like to get to a good natural save point, I suppose, is the the best way to put it. But I mean, like, my advice is the routine more than anything else. Yes, distractions are important. I said I'm lucky that I don't get many, but for me, routine is the key for me. If I fall out of this starting before 9 o'clock thing, starting as early as I can before 9 o'clock, if I stop doing my exercise in the morning and then having breakfast and then having a shower and then getting, starting work and having lunch at 12, then I would probably not be very productive at all. So there's also going to be people that get distracted by external stimuli, such as kids, such as spouses that don't quite understand that you need to be left alone to do your job. You're not at home to help, to help them. I don't know where to go with that one either. I don't know. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky again that my wife understands. So what would you say there?
Do you know what? It's a difficult one. I think you're right. You sort of don't underestimate the power of routine in that sense. So, and that would go to having a conversation with your spouse. I've got a very understanding fiance, and she gets it. So she will take my son, our son, and we'll be like, right, oh, okay, I'm just going to have him just now. I'm fortunate for that one, so I don't know, but I think what you were talking about there about the routine, that's quite powerful, because with that, it's self-discipline to follow that routine. And if you fall out of routine of that, then you will fall out of routine of other things. If you've already, like, this will sound corny as hell, but if you've already failed at something in that day, then a second failure doesn't mean as much. Whereas actually, if you just stick to that routine, you're going to get the endorphins or some sort of feeling, a sense of accomplishment. But just try and take away as many decisions out the day. So, I mean, lay your clothes out the night before so you know exactly what you're wearing the next day. Have things, food prepped for you. All the stuff that's going to take time out of your day that's a distraction, try and prep that the day before if you can, and minimize the decisions you have to make on that said day. So when you do wake up, it's just a case of, this is what I need to get done. And ultimately, it does come down to self-discipline. You have to, like, no one's going to make you do it at home. In the office, someone's going to go past you and say, so-and-so, you've been internet shopping for the past 30 minutes. Like, what the hell are you doing? But at home, who's going to do that? No one for me. I need to know that I have to get through this, because if I don't, I'm going to have clients or candidates unhappy with me. So you've got to find that headspace that allows you to be successful. I
think my motivation is slightly different again then from a kind of an employee, because I have to satisfy my clients. You have to satisfy your employer's clients, and your job is on the line, I suppose, if you don't do that. But with me, it's actually directly my finances that are on the line. If I could get fired from a contract, I could get a contract cancelled early, or I might upset a client and not potentially get some work in the future. But I suppose that's similar to how you work as an agent, so it's not too different, really.
Yeah. Well, how did you start? You've been working from home for 10 years now, so how did you start? What differences, if you were to speak to Chris 10 years ago, what would you say to him now that you didn't do then that you do now?
I was guilty of overworking, like massively overworking, to the point where I was very different from any of these kind of situations. I didn't just overwork in my contracts and I never worked permanently at home. I never worked remotely when I was permanent. It was always contract. But I've always had a business head on me, so I've always had side projects that have been potentially new revenue streams, or I've had hobbies that might eventually turn into businesses or something like that. So I burned out very, very badly, and I had to drop a lot of my projects and my hobbies. And it was roughly around the time I got married as well. So I had a new love interest. I also had I had 3 bands that I was in at the same time. I was writing an indie computer game, and I was running a recording studio, and I was running my contracting business, and I was also doing 1 or 2 kind of freelance jobs on top of the main contract as well. And it just got too much. But I'd say don't do that. But I learned my lesson. I burned out. I learned my lesson, and now I'm not a yes man anymore. I don't just say yes to everything and try and do everything. I know that it's very, very, very important for me to finish at that specific time, stop thinking about work, even if I'm still on my computer, and get on with something else, whether it's on my computer or it's watching telly or it's going for a walk or playing some badminton with my friends, something. So let's focus a little bit more on the isolation part. Because it's not just the remote working part of things. We're going to be isolated from our team, and we're also going to be isolated from society to an extent as well. So at the moment we have, right now, I am isolated from most of the teams that I work with, but I have the added benefit of being able to do my badminton and everything else that I do. I can go out, but I can, but it's not sensible to really go and do those things now at the moment. I am forcing myself to be less social, and then that's eventually going to end up being a government level force as well. I imagine within the next few months we'll probably end up being told you can't do as many things as you done before. Freedoms are getting taken away, I suppose, in a way. So that is an added issue. And going crazy, going stir crazy. This is the sanity part of the show title. What's the best way to deal with that, or what do you think is the best way, or how are you going to deal with that?
Technology. We're going to have to stay connected. I mean, like everything around us is about information faster. Whether it's apps on your phone or it's tech that we're using. We endorse these techs on a daily basis. You should do this. You should be using these things. Oh, do things remotely. But people always fall back and they say that analog approach where they want to look in the whites of your eye. But now is the time to actually be like, right, this is the catalyst for change. So I do. I mean, I've been, as I've said to you before, there's been a 500% increase in Teams usage in Friday last week. So Microsoft RSS and the hell out of things. I've been on countless Teams calls today, and I make everybody do the video on as well, so it's not just an audio. And you know what? That will feel a little bit alien on day 1 and day 2, but then people start to crave that, and it becomes the new norm at that point. People just need to reach out and stay connected. I talk about this all the time. It's like the connectivity of it all is like we just need to find a way. You might not want to. You might just be like, oh, Cam's forcing me to have a conversation with so and so. But one of the guys today, I was brushing my teeth at like 1:15, whatever it was, this morning. He called me. I was like, hey. He doesn't normally call me unless he's got some things. He's like, oh, I just thought I'd give you a call. Like, I'm trying to make an effort to like call people more just now. It's little gestures like that spark something in someone else's brain to go, hey, do you know what? I'm going to reach out to that person as well. But I think technology, it's there. It's it's the industry I'm in. It's what you're in. We've got to use it.
I mean, it's one of the things that we do DNI stream for, because Justin and I are remote, because we don't speak to that many people. That's it. We sound like hermits, but we're not. I mean, I'm quite a social person, but the fact is that this is, and the community that we've built around this podcast is really important to us, and it's really important to a lot of the people in the community as well. They thrive for that interactivity. So on a professional level, then we're talking about communication tools here. We're talking about enabling people to connect to each other instantly with instant messages and chat programs like Slack and Discord and Skype and Teams and everything else. Hopefully Slack will die a death soon, and everyone will move into something more appropriate, because it's not particularly secure or great, but we've talked about that a lot on this podcast before. And you mentioned something there about people having the cameras on and it being alien. Someone on LinkedIn mentioned this earlier on today or yesterday. I was saying how much I don't like it when I speak to clients and they don't turn the camera on. I've got some clients at the moment. Nobody has a camera, or nobody turns a camera on. One person did once, and she said, the project manager for something that I'm not really working with, but I needed to speak to her about something, and she said, "Oh, I'm at home today, and I look like a dog's dinner. I don't really want to turn my camera." I went, "I don't mind." So, because I had mine on, she felt compelled to put hers on, and she looked fine. You know, there was nothing wrong with her, but she just had this camera bias, I suppose, and consciousness. I'm so used to being on camera now, and I'm so used to doing live streaming and stuff. It doesn't bother me. I used to hate the look of myself, and now I don't care. I look how I look. Occasionally my hair looks stupid, but who cares? Occasionally my beard's up here, you know. But it is what it is. I'm a big fan of being able to see someone, being able to see the gestures, being able to read them, being able to know when they want to interject. And being able to know when I'm talking for too long as well, because I'm very guilty of that occasionally. I say occasionally, he says, taking up 90% of the podcast today. But I hope that this gives people more camera confidence, because a lot of them are perfectly fine talking to each other face to face, but just not on camera. Do everyone in your office have cameras?
Yeah, it's a yeah, everyone's got it. Some people use them. Well, no, 95% of people use them. A couple of people don't. For whatever reason, I'm not going to force them to do it, but I encourage them. It's like, look, you turn it on. So in the team that I look after, everyone turns them on. There's no real issues with it. I think but it is even just now. So I love chatting with people, like meeting people in person. And this is hand gestures. I'm often sort of just chatting with my hands as much as I am with my mouth and my eyes. I can't help but do that. I think sometimes people are self-conscious of that as well, because of how do I look and whatever. Business idea, just create filters for camera here, like Instagram filters. Millionaire, everyone you would use them. But it doesn't bother me. I'm like you. I look how I look. I mean, the last time I did the show, I just had this sty developing in my eye, and I was like, I don't care. It is what it is. It's no one looks flawless all the time. And I think we need to get away from that sort of image-centric sort of like mindset of like, oh, I don't look terrible. It's like, I don't care. This isn't a dating thing. I'm not trying to take you out.
There's one key difference to being online and talking to somebody in a meeting room and being offline and talking to someone face to face. I mean, there's two key differences, three actually. One is, I know it's usually not associated with just normal social interactions, but pheromones. They're actually quite important when it comes to speaking to somebody, gauging the reaction based on this subconscious kind of unconscious thing. But there's also, you can see yourself when you're in a meeting room. And so many people are looking at, I stare at myself most of the time while I'm talking to you on the podcast. I look at myself and I don't know why. And I'll look at you, you know, when you're talking, but it's just how it is. And people will naturally do that. They will naturally look at themselves most of the time. And secondly,
I'm going to start looking at myself, and I'm going to feel like I'm like this narcissistic guy.
Well, maybe I am. Maybe I'm narcissistic. I said I've been doing it too long. I've been streaming and being online. I remember that as audio and as video both became the norms on the internet, I was there. I was one of the first early adopters doing it mainly because of gaming, because talking to people in games and watching, you know, seeing people playing games on Twitch and things like that. There were, you know, quite big things. They're massive now, but back then they were like, wow, they're in America and I can see them and I can talk to them without this 20-second delay that you see on television. You know, it's amazing. It's right there and then. I've forgotten the point I was trying to make, but on the third one, the third thing is that the people are in 3D. That's another big difference. People are that you can. I know we don't do it very often in business, apart from handshakes, but you can touch each other. You know, you can. They're there. There's a tangibility to it, and people just aren't used to it. But I don't feel like this interaction that you and I are having is actually that much different from if I was in your house right now. Apart from it'd be weird because I'd be in your house.
Yeah, but you and I, we've known each other for a couple of years. So there's a familiarity there from countless hours probably on the phone, as opposed to this. My voice is familiar to you, and sort of like vice versa as well. But I think it's the mindset shift. This is now the new norm. So actually, you can sort of get sort of left behind a little bit, or not be as connected as you'd like to be, because you want to crave that sort of like 3D meeting. Or you just roll with the times, and like, this is what it is now, and it's forced change. So you might not like it. None of us like aspects of it, but we sort of need to roll with the punches a little bit. And I think once it becomes the new norm, and that's one of the things that through the conversations since last Friday, when things became a lot more serious and a lot more real, with the sort of likely stay at home, is the
Oh, I think we might have potentially, yeah, we just lost Cameron.
Ups and downs, people saying something.
No, you're back.
We lost me.
Your internet's been a little bit shaky for a little bit today, but I think most people's internet is being a bit shaky at the moment because so many people are working at home. I lost the last sentence or so there. Sorry, if you can say that again.
Sorry. I was just saying, it's when it becomes the new norm. There were people who there's conversations been had since the announcements last, or Thursday, Friday, and people have done 180s on the space of 24 hours. No, we're not going to do this. Oh, actually, do you know what? Yes, we are now doing this. And I think it's just that once they sort of see strength in numbers, hey, everyone else is doing this just now, I may as well do the same thing as well. It'll be a gradual sort of coming of age of like, this is now the new norm.
It's weird. I always do this on the show, but I'm relating this back to guinea pigs, right? Regular listeners know that I love guinea pigs. We've got a lot at home, but if you give a new set, we've actually got some foster guinea pigs in at the moment. Two new boys that have come from a pretty dodgy situation, and they're very timid and they're very awkward, and they don't eat many different foods. But if you manage to get one of them to eat a new carrot, like a new vegetable that they haven't tried before, the other one is all over it. And it's the same thing. Every kind of social animal, and we are very social animals, that they will latch onto it. And I know that it's been enforced, but there's also, oh yeah, they're doing it. I can see like we've seen this with the IR35 thing as well. RBS are banning PSCs, so Santander start doing it, and blah 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 blah, or whoever. I don't know the exact names, but you know what I mean. And it's almost if it becomes accepted, and people just go ahead with it.
Yeah, that's it. All you is a celebrity to endorse, I don't know, Google Hangouts or Teams or something like that, and God, everyone will be on it because cool. Idris Elba said it was cool. It's the same sort of idea. As soon as somebody starts doing it, we'll follow. A lot of people are lemmings when it comes to that.
And I think Cameron's internet is playing up a little bit, and I think this is the problem as well at the moment. I actually got a guy who works for a rather large, one of my best mates works for a rather large games company, and he's working on a new release coming up, and he's working on the global infrastructure for it, and all of the work he had planned and everything that he's designed is just gone to shot because of this. Everyone in the whole world is now working at home, so all of the designs that he's put together have all gone wrong. And he's furiously trying to get all that fixed and cater for all the new bandwidth, which wasn't, up until a few weeks ago, it wasn't even going to be a thing. Even if everybody who had access to the internet was on the internet, it still wouldn't have been a problem. But now everyone needs additional access, and they're using a lot more bandwidth. Right, so I think, hopefully, if Cameron's still with us, he's freezing on and off, we are going to close the show anyway. We've come up to the end now. So, thank you very much to everybody. Thanks to Tultepe, who's been the only chatter today. Unfortunately, because Josie hasn't been around, I haven't been able to do as much social media stuff with everything else I had to prep for the show. So didn't have as many live listeners as we normally do today, but we will get this up online tomorrow. And said thank you to everybody, and please do listen to the podcast in the future. Thanks to Cameron. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's certainly been... I always like talking about different subjects other than like the deep techie stuff as well, and the more social aspect of it. As much as I'm a little bit of a misanthropist occasionally. I do like talking about and trying to help, other people overcome issues that they're facing, and hopefully today we've provided a little bit of information for them to do that. So you have an opportunity now, if you've got any projects that you're talking about, or you want to pimp your company or anything like that, feel free to do that now.
To be honest, well, put me on the spot here. I wasn't have anything prepared. No, I think to be honest, the thing that's come out of a lot of this, which I've actually been really encouraged by, is everyone's reaction to this as well. I think we've been living in this really sort of capitalist society for a very long time, where like cash is king and profit and whatnot, and actually seeing everybody come together for the greater good, and it's sort of really their true colors coming out, but in a really good sense, has been just fantastic. So yeah, I mean, like Harvey Nash, we work with lots of big companies, lots of small companies, and everybody in between. But we're all part of the tech sort of community. And everybody seems to be really intent on doing the right thing just now. It's sad that I was sort of saying to Hannah, to my partner, like, what was the one of the last like really good things that happened in the world? It's like you had forest fires in Australia, you had things going on in California, you've got like Brexit, Mexit, Kobe Bryant died. God, that was a hard day for me. I was a basketball player for so long. You had all these things going on, and it was like this seems to sort of be the catalyst. If there could be any piece of sort of silver lining of what's going on here, is that we sort of come out the other end as better people doing sort of the right thing as well. So I think for me, working from home, it's a byproduct of what's going on right now. But I think there's an opportunity for all of us to probably wake up a little bit and I suppose to sort of think about the wider sense, not just sort of individuality, but actually we make a contribution to tech, to what we're doing right now, and that starts from just making working from home work well, so that we can get more flexibility. The things that have come from the short time that we've been doing this is the satellite images showing the lifting of smog coming from like the major cities across there. So actually, our carbon emissions have reduced substantially.
Well, yeah.
Just by that. So do we need to go back the full way, or can we actually find a bit of a happy medium?
I mean, when I've said quite often, and again, you will have had this, been in the, been placing people like myself, quite often people will say to me, well, why do you want to work at home? Or you can't do your job from home. And I said, well, I can. And the reason that one of the main reasons that I do it is its efficiency. But one of the secondary reasons and key reasons for me is my carbon footprint. If I'm leaving the house and doing 50 miles to work and 50 miles back from work, not only does that cost me more physically, it's also putting a lot of CO2 into the atmosphere, and people just don't think about it. I didn't even know that happened. I'd like to see if you've got any links or anything like that, I'd like to see that data, because never even occurred to me that, but it'd be very interesting to see that. I'd like to share that on LinkedIn, I think.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a small silver lining with what's going on, but if we can sort of, as you say, just find a bit of a halfway house where we don't go back all the way, we make this work for as long return, we start using the tools, and we start coming in our masses, then there can be a benefit from this.
I think said that one of the key things here for me is that it's happening to everybody. It's happening across the entire world, and everybody's been affected by it. Everybody knows coronavirus, COVID-19. Everybody that I've spoken to has some kind of opinion on it. Not everyone has the same opinion. Some people think it's blown out of all proportion, but most of those people, and I was one of them a few weeks ago, up until last Friday, or maybe the Friday before, I was like, oh, it'll blow over, don't worry about it. And then I started reading more independent articles, not necessarily, red tops and tabloids, and it was more about the actual effect it's having on things like the health systems across the world. Articles from doctors where they're completely overrun by, they're in much worse situation than we're in at the moment, but we are likely to get into that situation. And it made me think, maybe I should start paying attention to this. And it's not me that I'm worried about necessarily, because I'm not a vulnerable person, but a society as a whole. I mean, even if I look at it selfishly, if I have an accident in a week's time and I go, unrelated to the virus, and I go to the hospital, I might not get the treatment that I expect. And again, we're lucky, and I say lucky in this country, but we have the NHS. But it made me think, and it made me think a lot deeper about other people and about the vulnerable people that I might be passing the disease on to, and things like that. And it's very, very real, and it's happening, across the entire world, and it's bringing us together. And that's the key, I think. What you said, it's making, we're all suffering together, and I am seeing a lot of people who are embracing it, or at least taking it seriously, and yeah, hopefully there'll be some silver lining. There'll be a
I think you're right. For a long time, I think a lot of people, myself included, I'm not one for mass panic and hysteria. I was a bit like, oh, it'll blow over. It's sort of fine. And obviously, I've got parents in their 70s. It's like, oh, you know what? I was making sure they were okay, but I wasn't particularly worried for myself. But I think all of the info that's coming out and the messages from places like Italy was like, don't underestimate it. You are underestimating it right now. It is a lot more serious than you're giving it credit for right now. I think it's only really now where you're starting to see the tabloids sensationalize things on a daily basis enough that people are going, oh, wait a second. Actually, like I was going to go to the gym yesterday, and then it was actually the day before, I was like, actually, do you know what? I'm probably being irresponsible by doing that. So I'm not going now until I get sort of the all clear that that's okay.
That's the thing. On Tuesday, I was supposed to. I usually go to badminton on Tuesday. With a friend. I've already just started going to a new group. 3 weeks into it, he wasn't going on Tuesday, but I was going to go. So I was thinking, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to let the team down because I'm not turning up just because my friend isn't going. But I actually didn't go because I thought, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. I'm actually, the people that I'm playing badminton with are significantly older than me. Some of them, they're 20 years my senior. Some of them, I think. Well, sorry if they're listening. I think there won't be, but you know what I mean. But they're significantly older, so they're at higher risk probably. And yeah, it just makes me think a little bit. Even on a Friday we go out for a date night. We go out to a local restaurant, support some kind of local business. And we're probably not going to be doing that on Friday, but a lot of those businesses are also doing takeaways, so we're thinking of doing that instead to keep supporting them. And because there's so many cafes closing down, there's so many things that are being affected by this. It's massive.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. That's the main thing. Is if you support local businesses. The other day we were out. It's like, oh, should we grab a sandwich from Mark's? And it was like, no, let's go to a local business to like do our bit. But everyone's having to do that. No one's really doing it to sort of, I don't know, save face or sort of look like it. Everyone actually seems to be doing the right thing because they want to. Because, like, actually, as I say, the good sides are coming out. People are showing themselves to be inherently good. Where for a long time I thought people were inherently opportunistic.
See,
as well.
I think that's a product of us being in a commercial world. Both you and I are in the commercial world, and we see that a lot because it is capitalist. I truly believe that people are good, and unfortunately, it's the bad that we focus on because the good goes ignored. Like it's just, I don't know. In fact, sometimes you see something that's good and people applaud it, and it's almost sad that they have to applaud it because it's good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's
you look what sells papers. Look. I mean, the good news doesn't sell in newspapers. I mean, I think there should be tighter regulations within media and what they can actually report and can't report. There needs to be a certain percentage of stories need to be positive things. When I read stuff, it sort of warms my heart, and I'm like, whether it's I don't know, a mother beating cancer or it's somebody just, I don't know, like a kid just doing well at something. I'm like, that's great. I refuse to watch the news. I won't have it on. I try and avoid it. People today have been trying to get in touch with me about stuff. Have you seen such and such? I'm like, if it's important enough, it'll hit my radar on WhatsApp or an email. I don't want to watch it because it's just perpetuating the negativity.
I'm the same. I'm exactly the same as that. I don't actively avoid it, but I don't go out and buy the newspapers. I don't watch the news necessarily. But when it's on, I'm captivated by it. If I just happen to walk in the room when the news is on, I'm captivated by it, and I'm like, wow, that's happening. Oh, that's escalated quickly. Oh, Jesus. Jesus, are America doing the right thing here, etc. But Anyway, right, we should really close the show. We are slightly late today, so so thank you very, very much, Cameron. It's been wonderful talking to you, and I'm sure Josie would feel the same if she was here. I'm sure she'll listen afterwards, and see you next time. Anyway, so yeah, so on to our pimpage before we go. You can visit our website at www.dnistream.live for links to all our social media and all our podcasting platforms. We will appear in your podcasters soon. Josie is ill at the moment. She usually does the publishing, so it may be a bit later this week than normal, but I will have hopefully everything ready tomorrow. As normal. You can use the website to contact us for any reason. If you want to be a guest on the show, you want to suggest any topics, or you've just got anything nice to say, you can send us negative stuff as well. But if you have something nice to say, we'd always appreciate that. And the contact form does work now. It's been broken for a few weeks. And lastly, do not forget to follow our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/DNI stream. We hope to see you next week on Thursday at 7 p.m. Hopefully Josie will be back and we will let you know via Twitter what we will be talking about. So thanks again, Cameron, and thanks again to everybody in chat. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.